Hi, I'm Scott Ware, the publisher of Radiance Magazine, which can be found at radiancemm.com, which is about raising consciousness, awareness about all things spiritual on the planet and beyond. And this is the interview show on Xpnsion Network. And I have with me Dr. Gabriel Cousens, who is leading author of several spirituality and health books, including books on peace, spirituality, living foods, and reversing diabetes. My favorite title of all of them, spiritual nutrition. Welcome, doctor. How are you?
I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me on.
This is going to be great, I can tell. And I understand that you're kind of known for kicking off meetings or sessions like this with a prayer. Would you like to lead us in something right now?
Yes, I'm very happy to do a prayer.
Please.
The prayer is about the merging of the heavens and the earth, okay, of the heart and the mind. L'Shem Yikud Kudishabrihu Ushinati Bi'u or Imulaihed Shemyuki Bavavke B'Yidar Shalom Hashem Kozrael Kolam Amen. And just feel that merging of the heart and the mind. Okay, good.
Thank you. And it was good practice to do it with the sounds in the background too, right? It doesn't matter what's happening.
That's right. You have the right attitude.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, you have a new book. Could you hold that book up? I think you have it there with you.
Yes. Into the nothing.
Into the nothing. Now for spiritual people, that's not going to be that big a mystery of what you're referring to, but why don't you let us know also what you mean by nothing?
So in the subtleties of, hold on a second. The subtleties of how it works is we have the mind, and when we go beyond the mind, there's still the subtle I-ness of who we are. And into the nothing is even when the I-ness disappears and there's only the divine.
A beautiful place to get to in meditation.
Yes.
And what is your book telling us about how to get there?
It's not like here's a how-to, because the truth is it happens spontaneously. What it is, it was a result of a total spiritual path over the years. That's the key. And it spontaneously began to happen, mostly in meditation.
Sure.
But over time, it begins to happen internally. So there's an emptiness inside, of nothingness inside, that in essence is your every minute experience, even though you're walking around. Now, I will say that when you're deep into it, like in meditation, you really aren't in your body. There's no body left. So obviously you can't walk around with no body. It'd be impossible. But it's still an awareness that you carry with you. That's the key.
And how do we benefit from that?
Great question. We benefit because we know the truth of who we are. Now look at the world today. Everybody's freaked out about this thing, that thing. Everybody's in fear. When you know the truth of who you are, there's nothing to fear.
Right.
Because the soul is eternal. There's no death or life in the soul. It can't be born, can't die. So when you know the truth, all that fear that we see, like with the COVID, disappears. What's there to be afraid of? The soul's immortal. No problem. That's one way. So it helps you move into a fearless state of awareness of how you live your life. And you're free to move in any direction because of that.
Now, are you ever in a state of confusion of sorts when you're walking around, but you're going in between oneness and duality, perhaps? How do you navigate that?
Excellent, very perceptive question. So it's a simultaneous thing happening, living both dual, non-dual simultaneously. So there isn't really any confusion. if that makes sense. Because you're both simultaneously. In a more scientific way, we're coming from the nothing to the something, from the nothing to this. It's an oscillation. That's what the scientists talk about, actually.
Like the particle and the wave, or the yin and the yang.
Yes, exactly. So you get very comfortable with that paradoxical awareness of being a particle and a wave at the same time. So that's kind of really what we're talking about. You're something and nothing all the time. Most people don't get that they're nothing. They just think about being a something.
Well, and when you get to nothing, that gets you to all as well, correct?
Yes. So but even when you're the something, if you have the awareness of the nothing, you're all at the same time too. And that's the subtlety of your earlier question. You're holding both simultaneously.
Well, that should have been a very short book then, because we're done with the interview, I think. That's all we need to know, right?
Yeah.
Well, what else? And funny, because when you talk about moving between those things, it reminded me of, is it the toroidal sphere, or the toroidal space that just sort of turns in on itself?
In a certain way, except that still is existence.
Hmm.
So the nothing is prior to existence. This is a very important concept that you just raised.
Yeah.
So in the Torah, in the Genesis, there's the primordial chaos prior to existence. That's day one.
Mm-hmm.
Primordial, nothing. There's no form. There's no time, space, or energy. That's the nothing. And then we move into time, space, and energy. That's the something. So it's the alteration of that and holding that awareness. So when I say into nothing, I'm talking about the existence in that primordial chaos before even the I existed.
Mm.
Is that making sense now to your question?
It does, and it's also the exquisiteness of being human that you get to experience going back and forth, right?
Oh yeah, that's the beauty of awakened living.
Hmm.
Most people are living in the something and they're not accessing the nothing, which is a part of everybody. Okay, but not everybody is aware of it or is living that way. That's why Into the Nothing was such an important kind of title.
Yeah.
Because it raises, what are you talking about? Okay. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's part of who you are. And truly, that's part of who you are. Because when you reach there, as I say, the book has a lot of poetry. I say there's no place to stand, and actually there's no one to be standing. Because you dissolve into the nothing.
And it's all an illusion anyway.
Yes. But it's an illusion we use for our evolution.
Yes. So is it more important to evolve, expand, or experience?
They all go together in a way. One of the key teachings in the book, Into the Nothing, is that all life's experiences can be used or should be used to grow spiritually. They're all an opportunity to grow spiritually. That's the beautiful.
Okay.
And that it's an attitude of how you see your life.
So because of your title, Into the Nothing, you know you're going to get people who are more advanced in spirituality to even look at it, perhaps, except for a few people might be intrigued by the title, might seek to understand it. So we can go further and deeper into this. What are some of the experiences you're having or people are having deep into the nothing? I know it's probably very hard to put words to, but you did fill a book. So what would you say to that?
So it's something that begins to happen as you get more open to the truth of what is.
Mm-hmm.
So in my book, Into the Nothing, it's a progression where I progressively move into that awareness over time, not intentionally, but it's just what happened.
Yes.
So if you kind of see it that way, you see this is the progression. It's not something I accomplish or I achieve. It's just a happening. So that's the key kind of part of that evolution.
Would you say some people might be afraid to take these steps because they feel they might get lost or lose?
Oh, I actually talk about it in the book. Fear of going into the unknown is very common for almost everyone.
Sure.
So I said, don't worry about it. Everybody gets afraid. The point is, go on through it. And I explained my period of fear. Fortunately, it just lasted for an hour, okay? But some people, it's their whole lives. But because it shows the reality that we're never in control. And you have to give up the illusion that you're in control and they're safe and secure, because into the nothing is the truth of our existence anyway.
Sure.
But it is a little scary. And so I talk about spiritual courage. So I said, don't fight the fear. Let the spiritual courage and love of the divine within yourself become the greater energy. But still, don't pretend the fear is going to go away. That's how I say to approach it. It's a very important point you're raising. That's why.
Yeah, I appreciate, and you mentioned poetry, which do you want to read a little, because I know the gift of putting poetry in an art helps us, of course, touch the infinite, helps us describe the indescribable. I'm wondering if you have one or two you might share that would help us get there.
Okay, I have to look at my book for a second. Wait a second.
Sure. Look at all that nothing.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a place where
I can say that while you're looking for that, just share that when I've meditated and gone to that place, it is, I mean, they talk about the that we're not just the raindrop that coming into the ocean at the end of our lives and join with the oneness, that we're actually the ocean in that raindrop.
That's right. So here's one poem.
Okay.
It's called No Return.
Hmm.
Jumping off the sacred mountain of love, burning in my heart into the great mystical unknown, a sacred love, intimacy, and relationship, a passionate, radiant, enduring love. It can't be reversed. It's forever. That is what makes it sacred. At the deepest level, as we passionately plummet into sacred intimacy and love beyond time and space, into the cosmic oneness and love, beyond understanding, logic, and mind, into the eternal presence of the one. So that's a little bit
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's speaking
Nice.
to. I'm going to see about one more poem.
Okay. Nothing wrong with a moment of silence.
Yes, here we go. This is called dancing. I love the dance. I do a lot of ecstatic dance. I just love it. Okay, this is called dancing.
Okay.
Dancing as one soul in the Garden of Eden, independent of externals, unconditionally, without expectations, free, wild, God essence, love. That is where you'll find me, where we will always meet in every moment. Our souls are filled with flowers, giving birth to the spring of God's creation. Asking nothing, wanting nothing, we live in the searing fire and beauty of Yah's presence, like two falling stars, alive in the intensity of the moment. Our sublime beauty shines eternally as we burn, holding hands with God, arching to the sky in a sacred existence that transcends all poetry of ecstasy and love, heart exploding in untamed love beyond the slavery of common sense, choosing only freedom and love, drawing forth a wild holiness, love in you. lie down naked with me next to God and madly forget all but the truth of our divine union and every unrestrained, mysterious moment of existence.
Very nice.
So these are more traditional, let's say, the great love mystics, bhakti, love mystics. It's all about the love of God. Because to know God, we have to have a certain amount of duality so we can transcend it. So even my wife showed up. So why is duality important? Because it's all oneness, right?
Right.
It's because without the duality, we don't have that divine ecstasy of the love of God. So there's like Nisargata, it's a great Advaita Vedanta. Okay, there's only that. Still, he would do his puja, he would do his worship. Why? Because he wants that, what we call in India, rasa, that sense of divine love.
Okay.
And that's the key, is that adds to it.
Well, it sounds like the kind of meditation you're offering and you're teaching is ecstatic. I mean, it has roots in different things. Sounds like there's not necessarily hallucinogenics, no psilocybin.
No, there's no drugs. No, you don't need that. It's so far beyond that.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about breathing techniques and Kundalini too, correct?
Well, yes, but the key is the Kundalini awakening. So we could say Shakti Kundalini meditation, or what we call in the Western tradition, the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, and that is the energy that's within all of us. And when it's awakened, it takes us way beyond the astral plane, where drugs usually are, into the nothing. And so it's just, once that's awakened, as we meditate, all these things naturally happen. There's no external work to do. You just sit, meditate, let it play out. Let the divine Kundalini that's awakened guide you to where you need to be.
Yeah, you're not using any plants, right?
Right. No plans, no techniques. Okay. Sit, meditate, except the Shaktipat, the awakening of the Kundalini energy, or we call Haniha in the Western tradition. They're all the same. It's a principle you find in all the traditions, really, when you look.
You know, it occurs to me that when the Kundalini awakening happens, and we know the twin serpent, going up the spine, right. I just got an image of angels' wings activated. Yes. There must be that connection, yes?
I think so. Yes, very perceptive, very good.
Okay, and how long will it take someone to get to that state, and what do they do with that state when they get there?
There is no time frame on it. It just happens when it happens. Some people, it's multiple lifetimes. Some people, the first meditation. So, and nothing happens when you get there. You're just there. There's no place to go. There's no place to be.
Sure.
There's no place to do. You just are. No place to stand. No one to be standing.
Right. I like that. When you are in a relationship or a sacred union situation, what are there exercises that couples can do with each other to help achieve these states?
Yes and no. It's about your intention. If you see that the relationship is about a spiritual path, and I consider all sacred relationship is one where you both are entering with the idea this is a spiritual path, then you do whatever is needed. Okay, but ultimately there's the oneness that naturally evolves. I'm not just talking about making love. I'm talking about the oneness that just naturally evolves in the relationship. And again, everything I'm talking about is spontaneous. So I don't have techniques except to meditate and live what I call the holistic liberation way.
Yes.
That takes you, okay, that's it. It's really a total lifestyle. a natural way of living
I agree.
that helps you go beyond your mind. And whatever happens, happens. So we don't have an order to it. It's like, it's God's order. It's not my problem. I just have to show up.
How would you define holistic?
Well, in my approach, okay, which is what we're talking about, it's physical. So I talk about diet. And for me, it's the Garden of Eden diet, which is 100% plant-based, at least 80% live food. It's fasting a few times a year for 7 days. If that's the physical plane. It also involves exercise and making your body so it's not in the way, so to speak. Okay, so it becomes a superconductor of the divine. That's the key, superconductor of the divine. Okay. Second, I talk about yoga asana because you want flexibility, breathing, which builds the prana or life force, and sacred dance, which is my favorite. But the truth is I do all of that pretty much every day, 6 days a week. Third, service and charity. Some people, the most important thing is opening their heart. Well, what's the better way to do it than through service and charity? So I have programs in 42 different countries, mostly about diabetes prevention and veganic farming, organic veganic farming. Fourth is working with a spiritual teacher if you're ready. Not everybody's ready.
Right.
But you have to be humble enough to want to work with a teacher. Fifth is meditation. And sixth is as much Shaktipat or Hariha as possible. Again, that's the energy that awakens and supports the unfoldment. Now, that's the 6 foundations. I also have the 7-fold peace. They overlap. Peace with the body, which you just said, peace with the mind. But peace with the family is sacred relations. And it's seeing sacred relationship as a spiritual path. Okay, but again, that's your perception, how you're approaching relationship.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, it happens, but you want it to be conscious. Then peace with the community. And these days, that's a lot of spiritual work because there's a lot of chaos.
Right.
And then in the Native American approach, we call it peace with all cultures, peace with the living planet, peace with the plant people, peace with the animal world, and peace with the human world and all the cultures.
Sure.
And then there's what I call sacred ecology, knowing we're one with the living planet. Now, I see myself as the living planet. That's what I mean by the one. I'm not an environmentalist that I'm working on the environment. No, right. That's who I am. There's a total unity in that process. And then finally, peace with God. So that's a way of life that helps you stay really awake and in communion. Okay. That's the natural way of living.
I noticed that you pull from a lot of different disciplines, from the Kabbalah, from Hindu, from Native American. It seems like you're pulling from a lot of different disciplines. Would you agree with that? And what have you found being exposed to these different systems?
The key is everything adds. So everything has its own gift to give us. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. But I can't say my involvement was for that reason. I just get pulled into, the Swami Muktananda in the Vedic way. Okay, I was just pulled into it. Native American, I was just like drawn to do the sun dance. Mm-hmm. And, the same with the Torah, just began studying it to go beyond it. So I was guided that way. Right. And then gives a gift. Each gift gives a gift.
So what would you say your purpose is, your mission?
To help at this point in time, okay, first is to wake up, okay?
Yep.
And then keep waking up because it's endless. It never stops. There's always you're always a beginner. You always start over. That being said, the second part is to be a transformative agent of consciousness for the planet, to help the planet wake up. So that's more what my immediate mission is. That's why you and I are talking.
Right.
That's why I wrote the book. It wasn't for my own entertainment. It was like, okay, that's the mission. So go ahead, start writing.
But wasn't it for your entertainment? Because actually, we must first serve ourselves and our experience, right?
I have to tell you, as what I consider part of the mission, part of the alignment, and of course, we all benefit. I benefit from that. But I didn't write it for myself, honestly. It was like, this is your mission. I've written 13 books. They're all a sense of an expression of mission. And yes, do I do it for myself? Yeah, but writing isn't so easy. It's not right. So it's a sacrifice too, in that way.
Okay. What are some testimonials of some people that they've shared as far as their experience in working with you and what they might have overcome?
These are very good questions, and I'm going to answer it in a way. I'm here in Northern California. I had lived in Petaluma for 20 years, so I had a gathering with people when I was here. Even though we have the COVID thing, we had a gathering out in the field, okay? So every single person said, my experience with me, was transformational.
Okay.
Being in your presence created a natural transformation for me. Spiritual transformation. And that's the overall feedback that I get. It's that my function is as a transformational agent.
Okay.
Verbally, but also non-verbally. They were saying non-verbally.
Yeah, I think I saw a couple offerings on your website. You have a couple websites. Where should we direct people to see you?
So there's two main websites now, drcousens.com and treeoflife.mn.co. That's where the community is, and that's where all my teachings are, and that's where people can link in and get different levels of teaching and be part of an overall community. So it's treeoflife.mn.co and also drcousens.com, which points you to all the directions.
Yeah, and Cousens with an ENS on the end.
Correct. Yep. French. I have a French background.
Okay. Well, Dr. Gabriel Cousens, what would you like to leave us with? Would you like to leave us with a last statement or a prayer?
Both. Why not do it? So the teaching is how important it is to take on all life as a transformative experience, as a spiritual awakening experience. Second part of that teaching is returning to our soul and the soul awakening that's needed for who we are. Third is to experience more and more our oneness in the whole picture. And the fourth is live in spiritual joy, because it's the spiritual joy that kind of empowers us to continue the awakening process. So the blessing is, may everyone be open to this. May we all live as a blessing to ourselves and to all those around us. And
beautifully said. I love that.
So may you be blessed for your good work. Really good interview, really clear. And may all the listeners be blessed that they use this interview as part of their awakening process.
Yeah, and go to your website to see the offerings there and to, follow their intuition and maybe it could lead to having a session with you.
Yeah. Yes, because right now I am doing meditation retreats monthly over the internet, because that's what we have.
Okay.
It's a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, once a month. And then lots of ways to connect with me. That there are lots of openings. We do teach a course in what we call 0 Point, which is the Jnana Yoga of the mind. We have spiritual fasting retreats. I'm now doing over the internet. And we also just have our meditation retreats. So they're all kind of levels for people to engage to help themselves awaken spiritually.
Help them away. And for people who've awakened spiritually already, or, have that belief that they can keep it open, keep their awareness open more consistently throughout the day, going back and forth between the oneness and the duality.
Yes, and that's part of the whole process. And what I also know, it's not like a piece of information, it's a way of life.
Right.
So I welcome people into the holistic liberation way, because it's just a fun way to live. That's part of it. It's fun. So that's my offering to people.
Wonderful. Do you want to close us out with a short prayer, taking us from the brink of between 2020 and 2021, moving into wonderful new beautiful times where we're full of potential to create the world we want to live in? How would you lead us there?
Okay. So may everyone be blessed that we always know the truth of who we are, that we always know our oneness with all of creation, and may we always know the spiritual joy, the non-causal spiritual joy, non-causal peace, non-causal love, and non-causal compassion of the truth of who we are. Amen. Aho.
Amen. Aho. And so it is.
Good.
Thank you, Doctor. This is wonderful.
Thank you. Great interview. You're really perceptive.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching the interview show on Xpnsion Network. Bye-bye.
And may you be blessed in your work as it expands. And may all the listeners be blessed that they're able to really know themselves as the real truth of who they are.
Thank you.
Okay.